Hey everybody, how's it going? Mike from the Focus Garage here, and when I ended that last video talking about winning a car on Bring a Trailer, this is what I wanted to talk about. I was the highest bidder on a 2014 Porsche Cayman S. Now, I know I've talked about these maybe a little bit in some prior videos and kind of how I came to be on wanting one of these, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But first, I just wanted to give you kind of a walk around of the vehicle and kind of talk about the spec of the car here, because one of the things that I was looking for if I was going to land on a Porsche Cayman was I wanted the right spec, right? So all of these cars are kind of bespoke where no two are the same. So when you're looking for these, there's a lot of different criteria that goes into it, kind of finding the right spec, the right options, everything like that. As you can see, this one's a little goofy. It's got the tan interior there and then the rhodium silver paint, which actually does show off kind of its bluish hues in this light here. But some must-haves for me is I definitely wanted a car with the PASM suspension, which is Porsche's adaptive suspension. So you can see it sits a little bit lower, the PASM cars there. I did decide that I wanted a PDK, so their 7-speed, dual clutch automatic. That was another thing that I wanted on the car. And the biggest thing that I really wanted on the car was the Sport Chrono package. So that gives it the Sport Plus mode. That gives it that little clock there on the dash. And just you see, you got the Sport and the Sport Plus down there in the center. Now, I've already done quite a bit to this car. I actually bought the car and it was relatively stock. We've got a 991.2 steering wheel in here. You can see that's one of the mods that we've done. We've got the GTS style taillights on it. We've got a Fab Speed full exhaust system. We've got some BMC filters in through there. We're tuned through FVD Brombacher. So there's a lot going on here from when I bought the car, and it's only been 2 months of ownership. Something nice is if you guys know these cars, the headliners are usually saggy. This one's already been done and replaced in Alcantara. The door panels have been fixed. There's no warping of that. Stan interior is growing on me. I won't lie, when I was bidding on the car, I was skeptical of it. And I do still wish that it had the extended leather, the kind of the black top of the dash versus this tan. But with the silver color, with the window tint and everything like that, it works well, and it's very, very different than most of them that you end up seeing. So I'm kind of okay with it. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, here's a car. It's a 2014 S. Now, kind of the way that my logic was with these is I like the feeling of, lightweight cars that are kind of designed to handle. That's why I've had, Corvettes, I've had Miatas, I've had stuff like that. But I also like things that sound really, really cool. So, the Aprilia Tuono, the Audi RS3, things like that. And I feel like this car kind of embodies both of that, right? Like, this car sounds really, really cool. You've got that flat six with a tune that revs to like 7,900 RPM now. 3.4 liter out of the 911. So, like, it's decent, right? I mean, it's not a race car by any means. It's not going to be running 10-second quarter miles, but that's not what the car is about. A lot of people will argue, too, with the mid-engine versus the rear engine of the 911. This car is actually a more balanced, better handling car, kind of more engaging to drive. And, I've only done a couple 100 miles with it so far. It's been winter. I won this car. I hate saying win because I paid for it, but like I was the highest bidder on this car in early February. And, I've kind of been modding it in my garage ever since, getting parts installed as I've got the time. PDK service has been done on the car. Rear gear oil has been done on the car. Oil change. Like, this thing, it's ready to rip, right? And that was kind of my whole intention, that I wanted to have this car ready to go by the time that the nice weather gets here. And, it should be. We're going to start seeing some 50s and some 60s and everything like that soon. But I was looking at other cars, right? I was telling you guys, like ATS-Vs, M2 comps and everything like that. But I've always wanted a Porsche, right? Like, before I could even drive, my dream car was a Porsche GT3, like the old ones, right? Like the early 2000s. And, this is kind of my first entrance into that, because I wanted to see if it's something that I could really kind of enjoy driving and long-term ownership and things like that. And right off the bat, this has been one of those cars that it's surreal to me to own, because it's one of those that I've always been interested in, the Porsches, and I feel like this is a good balance of like engaging to drive, modern enough, where you still have a lot of like the tech where I've got Bluetooth audio streaming, heated seats, all that stuff, HID headlights, but it's still a very, very raw experience, right? So like this car, it's a naturally aspirated flat six, it revs high, the steering's really, really good. I purposely went with the PDK because I've experienced good dual clutch transmissions before, and everybody says like the Porsche is like the best dual clutch transmission, and they're not wrong with that, right? Like, the transmission in this car literally feels like it knows your next move. Like it knows what you want to do, when you want to shift, when you want to downshift, upshift. Like it's in tune with you, especially depending on the modes that you're on. So I have no regret in getting the PDK over the 6-speed with that. Super happy with that so far, especially I think once I get more in-depth drives done with it, I'll really appreciate it. This car originally stickered very high. I think this was like a $93,000 or a $94,000 car. It says the Burmeister sound system inside. One of the coolest things that it had, but it doesn't anymore, is it was originally spec'd with the carbon ceramic brakes. But being with the miles that are on this car, I wouldn't want to deal with having to replace them. The car's got about 60,000 miles on it right now. And, if you do ever have to change carbon ceramic brakes, you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000, which is not something that I'd want to do. So it's been swapped back to the standard S brakes, which are still bigger than the base model brakes that come on the 2.7. We've got those on the car as well here. As far as other plans that I want to do, I might want to do a higher rise duckbill, kind of like what the GT4 or even the Spider get. And then I do really like the GT4 diffuser. That's kind of cool as well. The front bumper is really the only thing that ages these cars, in my opinion. Those round fog lights, I wish it had kind of the LED slats that the Boxsters or like the higher trim ones like the GT4 or the Spider get. But I don't want to be that guy to put a whole GT4 front end on it, even though it's common. I just feel like that's kind of like that whole up badging thing, and then you have to worry about the paint not matching and, worry about people thinking if it's been in an accident and things like that. Like, I don't know. I think my money could be better spent enjoying other manners, other things on the car. So far, though, like, I've given it a good once-over. I actually had a shop do a post-purchase inspection on it. They didn't find anything. It's been a great car, right? Like, it is an absolute blast to drive. The driving engagement is off the charts. The sound of it, especially now with a full exhaust, we've got the headers and the cat back there. It sounds great. And don't worry, I'll get you guys some driving clips later. I'll also go through and I will do a full kind of like Bring a Trailer part 2 on how my experience was there, because I know people wanted to know about the bidding and everything like that, how all that worked out. But I mean, overall, like, the car's in pretty nice shape. Like I said, it's a 2014 with 60,000 miles on it, so it's not going to be brand new. It's got license plate holes, which I hate. But again, I mean, what are you going to do about it, right? I've installed some clear corners. This car actually sits on the Carrera S 20-inch optional wheels, which is absolutely insane to me that this car rides on 20s. Like, you wouldn't really know looking at it just because of how well it flows with the design of the car, but like, this thing's on 20s. Michelin Pilot 4S tires, the summer version tires, so it's really good with the tire setup, staggered as the way that they would have come from the factory, so that's all cool there. It's just, it was the right one. I had bid on a few for a while, actually, and the market on these is kind of all over the place. I wanted an S, I wanted a PDK, I wanted it with PASM, I wanted it with Sport Chrono, so my criteria pool is kind of small based on all that. But when one pops up, I'd bid on it, and there was a white one with like crazy low miles, like low 20,000 miles that I was bidding on for a while, and it just ended up, it was in California, and it was just too much for me to want to go ahead and, by the time I factor in shipping, Bring a Trailer fee, registration, all that. This was also in California, and I was bidding with somebody in the last minute, and I ended up taking the car. So, I still kind of had to factor all that in there. But yeah, this is kind of what the exterior looks like. Now, as far as the interior goes, we'll go ahead and close this one out from the interior. So yeah, it's like 62,000 miles. I love this wheel. I'll have to show up pictures of what the stock wheel looked like, but that was the biggest thing dating the car, in my opinion. It had this really odd plasticky looking wheel with buttons and stuff on it that I wasn't the biggest fan of. And the cool thing is, with a little adapter box, these are essentially a plug and play into the 981 chassis. So you've never got the bigger paddle shifters versus the buttons that the wheel had before. The gauge cluster, instrumentation, Porsche does it so well. You've got your tach, your speedometer, and then this little multi-display on the far right here that shows things like your oil temp, coolant temp, everything like that. It just works out so well. It shows you all of what you need, none of what you don't. This clock, cool for that. I really dig that that's the designation of the Chrono there, the Sport Chrono package. I've added a phone mount. One big knock on this car is that it does not have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, but the cool thing is you can actually take this unit out and kind of take it apart and install it, so that you could add like a board or a chip inside of this to where it can add wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, still retain the factory look and everything like that. It's like $400 or $500. It's something that I'm thinking about doing, but I'm probably going to do it just because I'm so used to that from previous cars having that. So having that in this would be really nice. As for now, I have like my phone here, and it's janky, but it works, right? It's got Bluetooth audio streaming. Like I mentioned, it's got the Burmeister sound system, which is weird that somebody would option one of these cars with that because, I don't know, I feel like you're supposed to listen to the car, right? So somebody did Burmeister and carbon ceramics, but they didn't do the Porsche torque vectoring rear differential, which is a really, really strange combination to me. Another thing that says the seats that have the heat and the ventilation, so it's got that really, really nice. And then here's like your standard, you got your button for your PASM shocks there, Sport Plus, traction control, the wing, and then the auto start stop. I've already been shamed by my one friend who owns a 911 saying that if you park with the wing up, people make fun of you. I think that's hilarious. I don't do it yet. It's really cool to see, though, the wing kind of go up in the rearview mirror there when you go over that 70-ish mile an hour threshold there and it stays up. PDK, like I was talking about, this is goofy. I've seen people make cup holder inserts for that, although the Porsche dashboard cup holders really aren't too bad. They seem to hold stuff. I like kind of the door pocket storage here, how that pops out, nice and felt lined, not fitting a water bottle or anything like that. But this car is also hugely practical, right? You've got the front in the front of the car, and in the back, since the engine's in the middle, you also have this huge hatch area. So that was really neat to me as well. I don't see a lot of content of these cars on YouTube, so I'm excited to kind of start bringing my ownership and everything like that into that area just to see if there's interest in these cars. I think if you're into cars, this car makes a lot of sense for the sense that it's a true sports car, right? It's something that it's meant to handle, it's meant to sound good, it's meant to be engaging to drive at a no compromises type of aspect, right? You've got that mid-engine type of car, which is very, very uncommon outside of, like a C8 or something like that, like it's a very, very different experience. And I would definitely say that, right? Like driving this car, you can feel how like flat the cornering is and just how that engine's behind you. It's a really, really neat experience. Be on the lookout when I do my part 2 video, kind of where I update you guys on the Bring a Trailer experience, how it was to ship this car, buy this car, the Bring a Trailer fee, and everything like that. But as far as for now goes, I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and get this car started. I don't know how much of that you guys could hear, but we'll go ahead and get this car started, and I'm going to go ahead and go for a little drive. I mean, we've got a day in February here where it's almost 50 degrees. Sun's out. We're in a beautiful 981 Cayman, and we're going to go ahead and take this thing for a little drive. So I will catch you guys later. Thanks for checking this video out.